All right, so we're eating unleavened bread this morning with kind of a weird combination. We have fresh smoked local salmon nummy stuffed with mangoes and crackers and matzah, and what is this? Cornmeal mush with OJ. All right, so what's next in our book, Hadassah?
Scandalous freedom.
Scandalous freedom, is that what you have?
No, doesn't have
It doesn't have it. Daddy doesn't have it?
No.
Yeah.
You don't have it?
0 for 3 so far.
Okay, so it was fierce intentionality, and his holy humanity, and then extravagant generosity, disruptive honesty last night. Now, oh, you're right. Yay, scandalous freedom. On your page.
He is a risk taker.
And when did you do that? That was a long time ago. You did that page.
About free from social and religious prejudice.
Prejudice. That's cool.
So let's see.
Okay, so in here it says letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. How do you say that? He is scandalously free. So he's scandalously free because he understands the difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. I want to talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, because like the command that says don't build a fire on Shabbat, and somebody actually lost their life because they went out and looked for wood and built a fire. Remember that? How do you look at that? Because it's obviously super serious to Papa that you take his Shabbat seriously.
Yeah. So it's kind of like what you could call a minimum thing, where you only do the minimum. So you would just obey the letter of the law just to avoid the punishment or whatever, rather than the spirit of the law to take it to the next level.
Yeah, the next level.
Beyond just being obedient.
Mm-hmm.
To like also fulfilling like the heart of the law.
When you look at the story of the guy that went to pick up wood, first, he's told not to work on Shabbat. He goes out and he gathers wood and makes a fire on Shabbat. I feel like I've known people to take that super literally, and they live in the middle of the woods with a wood stove, and that's how they heat their place, and they won't go and build a fire. They won't cook because, of all of that. But I feel like that's like not understanding the heart of it. I mean, like for instance, when we were at the teepee, one of the last things we would do on Shabbat, we didn't do on Shabbat at all, was go get wood. Like, go out into the mountains and chop down a tree and...
Right, we wouldn't do the work of putting in firewood on Shabbat. But we would make a fire if it was cold.
Yeah. Freeze to death.
I don't remember where the story takes place that you're referring to. If it took place in the time when they were eating manna, though,
yeah,
then fires were for cooking,
right,
more than heat, and so it had to do with cooking food, and he'd already provided manna for Shabbat.
Right.
At the heart of the law, to me, is accepting his provision and what his expectation was for Shabbat.
That is really interesting. That is super interesting because I hadn't thought of that. It was during the time that they were getting manna from him. It was in the wilderness that story happened, and that's interesting because that actually is a different spin on it, that a different understanding of that whole thing that I think answers a lot of questions. Because it was like the manna was for Israel to remember that he would provide. He provided every day. If he didn't drop it down from the sky, then they didn't eat. And he's saying, Shabbat, I'm going to give you 2 portions. I'm going to give you enough on Friday for 2 days and double, and to have somebody go out and say, well, I don't know, I need, I'm going to do it my way kind of thing on Shabbat. That changes that whole story for me, and understanding what his the heart of it was. Can you think of a place where he was after the spirit of the law instead of the line item technicality of it? Scandalous freedom. He was free from the rules of men.
Well, yeah, if you want to talk about man-made religion and man-made laws, especially the rabbinical laws.
Hi, Betty. You had some salmon earlier. Yes, you did. Yeshua has a wild freedom born out of a profound holiness. Yeshua has a wild freedom born out of a profound holiness.
So how does holiness equal freedom?
That's a huge topic. John Eldridge has a fantastic teaching on holiness, the utter relief of holiness.
Mm-hmm.
So having Yeshua in us, being perfect like him, is complete freedom. Then you're not striving, you're not stressing over, what man asks you to do or anything like that. I mean, he was completely free because he was holy. And we're supposed to be set apart and we're supposed to be made holy. So if we have him in us and we have his holiness in us, then we will be scandalously free as he was. Free to not care what man says or what religion says. So then he's free from what people think. He's radically free from religion, all religions. And he's a risk taker. He's free from religion and false obligation. False obligation.
Sounds like the expectations that man-made religion puts on you. The big to-do list. Things that aren't actually commanded.
Aren't commanded, not even in the scriptures. Right. I mean, I just saw somebody wrote a book about what does the scripture say about sex before marriage, and it doesn't say what we've grown up to believe it says. So you have this thing hanging over your head your whole life thinking it's commanded, and it's not.
The whole purity thing is not scriptural.
Not like that. Purity in heart, being pure from leaven and from idolatry. But that other purity, man, that's huge right there. That's a teaching in itself.
And it keeps you busy somewhere else.
Right.
You're so busy doing the things that the religion is telling you to do that you don't want to be bothered with the things the prophet wants you to do.
Right. So instead of being obedient to the law and figuring out what that law is and then obeying it, Christians are sidetracked with purity in a way that the scriptures actually doesn't talk about.
Yep.
When we grew up, it was sidetracked with don't wear jewelry, don't wear makeup, don't go to the theater, don't drink coffee, don't eat pepper.
And all the things you're supposed to be doing, like all the religious programs.
Right.
Discipleship and missions and
Wednesday night and
religious activities and youth groups and
just pure activity.
Just all that religious activity.
And that's not even in the scriptures.
Right.
That's not what he wants you to do.
That's not it at all.
That took a very long time to get free from. To have his scandalous freedom in that area was huge. I think that's the hugest thing for a lot of people. I mean, trying to get to the point where you realize you don't have to go to church.
Right.
That when the New Testament writers talk about, I think there's one verse in there that says, don't forget to assemble together. Don't get in the habit of doing that. Some people are. They're talking about feast time.
Right.
They're not talking about every week showing up at church to warm a pew.
Right.
Or to have a job to do at church. I do miss the fellowship. There's something to that, but fellowship for us we've been really focused on getting fellowship at feast time. And if you have all these feasts throughout the year, if you could get fellowship, then you would have you'd have a lot of social. You'd have the fellowship you need. Free from social and religious prejudices. He has a freedom based on a holiness much deeper than any religion ever concocted.
One more time.
He has a freedom based on a holiness much deeper than any religion ever concocted.
Good.
He moves holiness from external to internal. Yeah, that's the head knowledge into heart knowledge. This is what I'm totally preaching the same thing that Yeshua does. Moves that holiness from external to internal, which is the whole point of the second Melchizedek contract. You have the first one that was external, you know, in the sense of it had a fault in it, and the fault was it didn't have the Ruach HaKodesh with it, so it couldn't be taken in. It couldn't actually become internal until the second contract. The second contract, which he brought, makes it internal. The head knowledge to the heart knowledge. I love that. All right, I think there's only one more here. He cares deeply about the right things.
Right.
I like that, though. Yeshua has a wild freedom born out of a profound holiness. That's just so cool. All right, and then that whole John Eldridge holiness, utter relief of holiness. That was important in our walk. Okay, the stories, Hadassah. The stories.
Touching the leper.
So he touches the leper, and that's like scandalous freedom because...
Was the social expectation was that you... I'm sorry, Dad.
Okay.
Just 1 second. Is it? Yeah, it wasn't socially acceptable.
Women at the well meeting against convictions.
So you weren't supposed to talk to women, and you weren't supposed to talk to Samaritans.
Right. He was scandalously free to that. Okay, what's the next one, Dad?
Disciples picking grain on Shabbat.
Oh, yeah, see that? He's like, Shabbat serves man, not the other way around. Which is one of the things that I see differently. So people who say, I don't go out to a restaurant on Shabbat or anything like that because I don't want people to serve me, but they're super happy to go home and have mom serve them in the kitchen. That to me is like you're not living in a freedom, in a scandalous freedom. Because, and it's very, what do you call that? It's unbalanced or it's training gnats and swallowing camels. You know, it's like the plank versus the speck kind of thing. You're going to go home and you're going to be happy to sit on the couch and watch mom or one of the women in the house, you know, make a meal and serve you, but you won't go out and have a pagan serve you. Like, what? It's just ironic to me. It doesn't make any sense. So I live in this scandalous freedom that says I'm walking with the Ruach. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. Sometimes the place is wrong, sometimes, you know, whatever, you know. But it's a freedom. Okay, Dasa, well, who's next?
The next
Just
one
two more.
Is to enter kingdom, your righteousness must surpass the Pharisees. Matthew 5:20.
And you need a heart like Yeshua's to do that. So to enter the kingdom, your righteousness must surpass the Pharisees. So the Pharisees had everything like nailed down. They were like legalistic. There you go. They were legalistic about it. But Yeshua's after more than that. He's after more than just the doing. He's interested in the level of the heart. And you have to have this freedom that he did in order to keep the law the way that he wants you to keep it, because it's supposed to set you free. It's not supposed to make you more in bondage. There's one more there.
Simeon and Mary Magdalene through eating with sinners.
Oh yeah. So he had a scandalous freedom. He could eat with, Simon, who is a top level Pharisee, or he could eat with Mary Magdalene, Miriam of Magdala. He could eat with the, that level of people. He had this freedom to like move about into all kinds of different crowds of people, and he wasn't confined to a religious crowd or something. So he has a freedom based on a holiness much deeper than any religion ever concocted. That's my favorite thing. So scandalous freedom. He was scandalously free. I want that.
I'd say you have it.
Yeah. I've eaten of him a lot. My bad days that people affect me, but for the most part, 100% of the time I have in the back of my head, I care more what Papa thinks, I care more what Yeshua thinks, I care more what the Ruach thinks than what anyone else thinks. It doesn't matter, family, friends, strangers, my audience, it doesn't matter. I care what they think. And I look at Yeshua and he was free. He was free to come and go. There was no social constraints on him. He obeyed Papa, and in that holiness, in that perfection that he attained or whatnot, man, he could just walk around, feel free, and that's what I want. All right, let's eat.
Okay.